Sarah looked with delight at the charming, flower-covered little inn where she and Kenneth were spending their overnight getaway trip, feeling true. Already she could feel the stresses of the city melt away in the fresh country seaside air, with the lush sunlit flowers, the gentle lapping of the waves from across the coastline road, all creating a sensation of joy deep in her soul that she could not remember experiencing for years. She looked across at Kenneth, hauling their overnight bags out of the car, the sunshine lighting his little curly brownish gold ponytail, of which he was unironically and absurdly proud, the leafy shadows of the tree patterning the tattoo of two interlocking puzzle pieces on his neck, and a surge of tenderness and love towards him swelled up in her. He sensed her looking, and for an instant their eyes locked. And Sarah felt as she did in their early days of dating, a few years ago now, recalling the warmth of those times with a sob. Smiling, they walked in and up to the check-in desk, where a local girl took down their details and rattled off a list of the local hiking trails, restaurants, and beaches to catch the best view of the sunset. You are also, of course, welcome to stay here and enjoy dinner with us. We have a simple but excellent menu, and there are always a few guests who prefer to stay in and enjoy the grounds and perhaps catch a game of cards after sunset. She gestured to the interior, and Sarah looked over to a living room furnished amply with comfy couches, armchairs, and overflowing bookcases. Opening up to a large dining room. This space is truly the heart. It looked like the card game had already started, with a gray-haired group of four settled around a table, their voices low as they focused on the game. Sarah could hear their low murmurs and the slight shuffle of cards. But the young couple were excited to check out their room, and they went up as soon as they were done checking in. The room was beautifully done up in the New England style, with pretty floral curtains, bed linens, glowing wooden floors, and faraway seascapes dotting the faded, striped, wallpapered walls. Sarah reached out to Kenneth, and giggling like teenagers, they rolled on the tightly covered, beautiful bed. Kenneth paused what he was doing and pointed to a sign handwritten in elegant cursive. I would like to remind all of our guests that quiet hours began at 8:30 p.m. Please be considerate of others in the library. The sign made them giggle even more, heightening their desire. Joking about silences, they passed delightful moments together, sharing before rolling apart and deciding to go for a leisurely beach walk before returning to the inn to sample the excellent menu. We enjoyed the quiet moment. The sunset over the majestic Atlantic Ocean was everything the brochures had promised, and their phones full of fresh photos and with hearts full of renewed love, they wandered back into the inn, holding hands, grateful for the quiet moments they had shared together during their long journey. They didn't dally long at the dining table. The receptionist turned server sensed their desire to vanish to their room and whisked their plates back and forth efficiently. So caught up in their rekindled romance, Sarah barely noticed the card players sitting further down at the same table they were seated earlier, their murmurs providing only a background for the couple's animated chatter, drifted through the quiet library. The drive and the refreshing beach air eventually exhausted them, and soon they found themselves falling into a deep, peaceful sleep. Sarah woke up to flashing blue lights piercing through the curtains. Kenneth was already standing, looking through the window. "Ambulance," he said. She looked at him with concern. "Probably one of those old card sharks downstairs. They looked about 100 years old. I honestly do not know how they managed to stay so active after all these decades of years of living." Sarah felt an irrational annoyance. Why would someone need an ambulance on the very night they looked forward to for their romantic getaway? It just makes no sense. She was determined not to let it spoil her mood. "Come back to bed, sweetheart," she called softly as she reached out to snuggle up beside him. They lay quietly, listening to the voices below and a slight patter of feet in the hallway. It was silence soon returned, along with the peculiar pitch-black darkness of rural areas. Kenneth fell asleep. But for Sarah, already prone to insomnia, sleep proved more elusive, and she turned and tossed until the small hours, grayness already on the horizon, when she suddenly plunged into a deep black sleep. She woke up to darkening gold sunshine lighting the curtains. Had she slept through the whole day? She felt dizzy. The bed was empty. "Kenneth?" she croaked. She was entirely alone in the small, flowery, patterned room, the silence pressing in her... "Kenneth?" she croaked. She was entirely alone in the small, flowery, patterned room, the silence pressing in her... A shimmer of shock went through her as she noticed Kenneth's phone on the nightstand by his side of the bed, dead. It was completely dark and unresponsive. She went out into the hallway, unsteady on her feet. "Kenneth!" she called out, gripping the banisters tightly as she searched. She made her way downstairs and stepped out into the living room, where the curtains were already drawn, lit only with soft yellow light from a couple of ornate decorated lamps. Kenneth. Had he joined them, these four card players who had their heads bowed deep into their game? Or was I mistaken about his location this afternoon? But they were all old people, their bodies hunched over the table, faces turned low. She stepped closer. The one closest to her, with his back turned to her, had a low, silver-streaked ponytail, a familiar figure that she had not seen in many years. But now so faded, grayish, distorted, wrinkled neck tattoo. The two puzzle pieces stretched apart. But how? What? And all four raised their heads and looked at her with their marbled eyes, and "We needed a fourth, dearie," said one kindly, welcoming her into their fold. She made a noise trying to call for help, for somebody, but all four had turned back to their game, as if she had become invisible, completely ignored by them. She turned and ran to the door, out, past the big flowers now the color of dusk, towards the calm, silvery beach, the heaving gray ocean catching the last rays of the blood-red sun as the day gently fades into the quiet.